Welcome to Nasdaq Trade Talks. I'm Jill Malandrino, global markets reporter at Nasdaq. Joining me is Poppy MacDonald. Poppy is president of USAFacts, a nonpartisan not-for-profit that former Microsoft CEO Steve Ballmer founded in 2017 to provide the most comprehensive and understandable source of U.S. government data available. Recently, USAFacts released a new coronavirus impact and recovery hub, making it as easy to get key facts about the impact of COVID-19 in our nation's economic recovery as it is to check the weather. Poppy's here to discuss the hub and how you can use it to better understand our nation in numbers. Poppy, it's great to have you with us. Welcome to Trade Talks. And tell us more about USAFacts, what's your purpose, and what work are you doing now that our audience should know about?
Thank you, Jill. It's such a pleasure to be on your show and to have the opportunity to speak to your audience who are data-driven numbers people. So I hope they find USAFacts to be an incredible resource of government data, which we know isn't always easy to get access to. And at USAFacts, we believe the facts deserve to be heard, and that is why we have established a one-stop hub where Americans can go and get easy access to government data. We compile over 70 federal sources of government data and make it understandable, easy to use, and easy to have the facts at your fingertips. And uniquely, when COVID came out, the pandemic broke out, we became a hub and actually compiled county-level data on COVID, the outbreak and the deaths that we provided to the CDC. And most recently, we want to talk about America's recovery from this pandemic. So we have launched a COVID recovery hub that not only looks at the health implications, but also looks at the impact on the government in terms of spending, on consumers and our economy, as well as standard of living. How is it impacting people personally? And we hope that your audience will be interested in coming and checking out the COVID Recovery Hub, looking at the facts and the data, and understanding for themselves how we're doing.
Well, clearly America is grappling with the politicization of key issues, mistrust of data, science, and facts. Does USAFacts provide forecasts, or are you strictly in the business of providing data?
Really appreciate you asking that question, Jill. And we know that Americans are distrustful right now if they're turning on one news channel or another, or hearing from an incumbent or somebody running against them for office. They're probably getting very different versions of how we're doing as a country. We want Americans to judge for themselves. And so we provide just the facts, just government data. No predictions, no forecasts. It's just, here is the data, and we let Americans judge for themselves how we're doing and to advocate for the change that they want to see. We're nonpartisan and not-for-profit, and so our only objective is to arm people with data to help inform how they think about the country.
What are today's numbers telling us?
You know, that is a good question. I would say there's no clear crystal ball answer. It's a mixed bag, but I think there are some bright spots where we're starting to see some recovery. As I'm sure your audience knows, the stock market is doing really well right now. So there's a positive momentum there. I think in terms of things like retail sales, we're starting to see a bit of an uptick since January, up about 1.2%. But when you look at things like spending on clothing, it's down. You know, I'd say mixed bag in terms of what we're seeing. Government spending a lot more. So the $2 trillion CARES Act funding was obviously vital to the recovery of our country, but it means the government's spending a lot more. So if we spent $4.45 trillion in 2019, in 2020, we've already spent over that amount, and we're not even done with our fiscal year, which is at the end of September. So certainly going to see the impact on government next year in terms of our debt and our deficit. Personal income, which I think would be really surprising to people, is up 5.6% since January. Now, obviously, a lot of that is due to government action, some of that CARES relief funding we talked about. So thinking about the $600 additional dollars that was added to unemployment benefits, that's impacting that personal income being up. Air travel, for example, it is back up to just under 700,000, which is a high from when we were at 100,000 or below, but still far below what we would expect air travel to be right now, which would be more like 2 million people.
So it sounds like the data is fairly positive as we recover from the pandemic. What are some areas for concern that you're seeing in the data?
I would say in terms of, areas of concern, it would be what is the impact of increased government spending with the fact that revenues are going to be down. And so what does that look like for our country next year in terms of how state and local governments grapple with needing to fund the core services that they provide, but not having the same revenue that they typically have to operate under. And unlike the federal government, state and local governments do have to operate within their budget. So I think that's going to be something for our country to grapple with. Obviously, a lot of discussion is happening right now about, are we going to provide another round of relief funding for Americans? And if not, seeing that bump in personal income of 5.6%, that's not going to be able to be sustained. So what does that mean for our economy and for Americans?
All right, Poppy, appreciate the insight. Thanks so much for joining us on Trade Talks.
Pleasure. Thank you, Jill.
And thanks for joining me. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq.